This is Matthew Cratter from Trader University, and today I want to talk about whether we're getting a sell signal in the pi cycle chart. I've been getting a lot of questions about this. The pi cycle top indicator looks like this, and what it's done in the past, it's done a very good job of calling local tops in Bitcoin. So when the yellow line, the orange line here crosses above the green line, you get a sell signal. So we actually got two of them in 2013. 2013 was a little bit of a strange bull market where we did have a sell-off about halfway through, and it remains to be seen whether that happens this time around. I don't think it does for various reasons that we're going to talk about. But the point here is that the pi cycle top indicator has done a pretty good job. These two data points in 2013, as well as calling the 20,000 top within a few days. It's usually accurate within a few days, and it did call the December 2017 top as well. And if we scroll in here, we can see that we're basically getting a signal right now. It's about to cross over. It's just crossed over. Now, the pi cycle this indicator is calculated using two different kinds of moving averages, or two moving averages. These are what are called DMAs. I don't really use these. I haven't found them useful, but they're called displaced moving average. That's what DMA stands for. And you basically shift the moving average backwards or forwards in time. And so we have sort of a fast moving average, which is the 111-day DMA, and then we have a multiple of the 350-day DMA, basically multiplied times 2. Now it's called the pi indicator because if you take the ratio of 350, which was basically the two moving average inputs, and you divide 111 into 350, you get something that's close to pi. It's not equal to pi, obviously, and it's totally unclear to me how these numbers were generated. I'm not sure how cherry-picked this was. And I also couldn't figure out online when this indicator was first developed. I believe it was developed before 2017, so it does have in some out-of-sample data. But this is one of those strange indicators, and I'm all in favor of strange indicators that work. But this one is a little bit too much voodoo, even for me. And even the fact that this ratio, maybe there is something special about pi. Maybe some of these numbers correspond to some deep structure in the Bitcoin protocol. I don't think they do. The fact that this doesn't even come close to pi, it's actually fairly far away from pi, tells you something. And so just because it's predicted the three previous tops, I don't think there's any rational reason to think that this chart should have any predictive power this time around. Obviously, we only have 3 data points from before. There is this point of self-fulfilling prophecy. A number of retail traders, maybe some of the people who've sent this question to me, may have been selling some of their Bitcoin as they see this topping, and then the sell pressure creates a little bit more sell pressure. But I don't think we see anything close to what happened last time. Normally these bull markets go on for 12 to 18 months after the halving. We had the most recent halving in May of 2020, so we should expect this rally to go on at least through May and probably through the end of the year. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, there's a very good chance that we've actually entered into a Bitcoin super cycle, and that future bear markets, the pullbacks are going to be very, very small, maybe 10, 15, 20%, which is a small pullback for Bitcoin. The thing that the pi indicator doesn't understand, it's obviously just an indicator that crunches some numbers. We are in earnings season is in full swing right now, and this is the time of year during the reporting season 4 times a year when we will almost certainly see reports of more companies buying Bitcoin. As they report their earnings, they may announce that they've added Bitcoin to their balance sheets. There have been a lot of rumors that Walmart has been buying Bitcoin, and I'll show you some of those tweets in a minute from now. The FANG companies will almost certainly be buying Bitcoin at some point if they haven't bought it at this point already. Wall Street is obviously on board with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's being added to corporate treasury reserves, MicroStrategy, Square, and Tesla, obviously. And as I said, with earnings, we should expect to see even more of this. Sovereign wealth funds have been buying Bitcoin. We know Temasek owns some Bitcoin, and it's quite possible that other sovereign wealth funds are buying Bitcoin as well. And then this most recent news that central banks may have begun to accumulate Bitcoin. We talked about Peter Thiel's comments on Bitcoin a couple days ago, and he seems to think, or at least if you read between the lines of what he's saying, he's basically saying that the U.S. needs to get on board. The federal government and the Federal Reserve need to start buying some Bitcoin in order to keep up with China. And so this is the part of the cycle we're in. It's really a unique part of the adoption cycle, where the previous bull markets, the 2013 and 2017 bull markets, were really driven by small-time retail speculators for the most part. Obviously, there are whales as well, but it was very much more of a speculative game, and there were much fewer. There weren't any really corporations buying Bitcoin, adding it to their balance sheet. It didn't have the same regulatory clarity that it now has in the U.S. Banks are now allowed to custody it and store Bitcoin, etc. PayPal lets you use Bitcoin, all these services, which we've gone through in many, many videos. And the Pi indicator does not know these key facts. After I made the video about Peter Thiel and Bitcoin yesterday, I got a very interesting comment from Jinyun Zhu, saying that basically he has seen screenshots from late 2020 that demonstrate that the Chinese government does own a lot of Bitcoin. He said he can't find the screenshot anymore. It was obviously some snapshot of some Chinese report, but the surprising thing about this is that Jinyun does agree here with Peter Thiel that China probably owns a lot of Bitcoin. And so this is a much different cycle from 2013 to 2017. And I think it's important when you're trading and investing, it's great to rely on technicals and have technical indicators, but it's also very important to know, especially if you're a long-term holder of a security or of a cryptocurrency or a crypto asset, it's very important to know where you are in the adoption cycle and the macro fundamentals, obviously all the Fed money printing that's going on. And if we are getting into an arms race with China and with other central banks and other sovereign governments who are buying Bitcoin, this really changes. It changes everything. While we're here, let me ask you, if you're enjoying this video so far, to please hit that subscribe, hit the like button, and also pass this video on to a few friends if you think they might be interested. Here's one of the many tweets talking about Walmart buying Bitcoin for their corporate balance sheet. So we should know when Walmart reports earnings. If they've made a significant purchase that's material, that's above a certain percentage, they'll be disclosing it. So I'm not a fan of the Pi Bitcoin, the Pi cycle indicator. I don't think it's a little bit too much voodoo, and it's only called a few tops. And so I think this time anyone who's selling their Bitcoin here or shorting Bitcoin is not going to be happy. We're really still deep in the bull market. And I think as opposed to the Pi cycle indicator, obviously I'm a big fan of Plan B's work and his various stock to flow models. These were tested, they were back tested in sample, and then for the past call it even almost 2 years, we've had out of sample data that's confirming that the model is working. And so we can see here that this is projecting, this first model, the first stock to flow model is projecting something like 100K for Bitcoin in this cycle, and then 1 million after the next halving. There's also his Plan B's updated stock to flow cross asset model, which really takes time out of the equation and just looks at stock to flow and the relative valuation associated with that across real estate, precious metals, and Bitcoin in its various incarnations. And this is giving a price target of $288,000, which, if this model is correct, should occur sometime later this year or early next year. The actual timing is somewhere between 2020 and 2024, but because of the way these bull markets work, it's more likely we hit it in this first part of really late 2021 or early 2022 rather than all the way at 2024, when we'll actually get another halving and the stock to flow Bitcoin will increase and will finally be greater than gold as well. And it should continue to steal market share from gold in the process as really the hardest money around and the best store of value. So these are the kind of models I put a lot more faith in. I was talking about these models even before we got the latest run in Bitcoin, and there's something about them. These models also can become self-fulfilling prophecies. But if you combine stock to flow models with just the huge flows and the wall of money that will continue to hit Bitcoin, we still don't have an ETF in the United States, a Bitcoin ETF, and still just a tiny fraction of the publicly traded companies, the large cap companies especially, own Bitcoin. And so there's just so much room here in terms of you can ask yourself how many people you know who own Bitcoin, what percentage of the people in your life own Bitcoin. I imagine it's still very small, probably below 5%. So we're still very, very early, and Bitcoin is really hitting its stride here with the regulators, with Wall Street, and with institutional investors. And that's what makes it very different from when the Pi cycle top indicator was calling the previous tops. We didn't have this sort of institutional wall of money in process and continuing to flow. If you want to learn a little bit more about the stock to flow cross asset model, I talk about it in this video. This was back in July of 2020. Bitcoin was probably around $10,000 then. And so this number seemed very crazy back then, but now that we're at 50, 60,000, almost at 60,000, it seems much more, certainly much more realistic. And I'm still expecting Bitcoin. I have a fairly conservative price target compared to something like this. I think we'll be at or above 200,000 by the end of this year, by the end of 2021. As Plan B points out here, as we've been talking about, that the stock to flow model, both of them, have been seeing very good out of sample performance. So these models were developed with historical data, and then the real testable model is how it works going forward. So it'll be very interesting to see how the stock to flow models continue to work, as well as this out of sample data points that we're encountering now for the Pi cycle top indicator. Is this really going to be a top, and are we going to see a 50 or 60% or 70 or 80% drawdown from here? I would say the answer to that, I would say I'm 99% certain that will not happen for all the reasons that I've enumerated in this video. William Clemente here has a great tweet looking at the sell pressure by long-term holders of Bitcoin. We did see, we can see the red lines here. The red bars are selling pressure, and we did get a lot of that early in the year when Bitcoin finally broke above 20,000 and was holding above there. So there's a lot of selling pressure. That selling pressure has been decreasing massively, and this is not what you see if Bitcoin were forming a top. You'd probably see a lot more long-term hodlers selling. And so I think we're still very early in this game. Bitcoin will go from roughly 60,000 today to 200,000 by the end of the year. And I think we'll see the Pi cycle top indicator fail in the next few days or the next week or so. And anyone who is short will be forced to cover, which will create just even more of a melt up. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.